Morning YouTube and good morning China. I'm here in Cheshire right now. I should be in China at this conference for the Digital Resources and the Humanities and Arts conference. I should be there, but I can't because of life stuff here in the UK. So I'm trying to maintain a mental connection and a video connection. So I'm hoping some of you in China, some of you delegates, Andy, who I've been conversing with on email, I hope you get to see this video. This video, by the way, if you're not familiar with YouTube conventions, this is what's called a walk and talk video, which a lot of my videos are, which means, obviously as the name implies, I'm walking and talking. There's quite a few people on YouTube do this, and for me it's a genre in which I ramble, literally and figuratively. So I haven't got a prepared script. I'm just thinking on the hoof, really. And what I'm thinking about here, specifically in relation to China, YouTube, digital resources, and particularly censorship, is to do with the huge differences. You know, because I'm guessing if you are watching this in China, Andy, if you've managed to get this, you'll have to access it through a proxy server, or you'll have looked at it on Blip or something like that, because I know Vimeo as well as YouTube are both blocked in China. Or you'll have downloaded it from Rapid Share, something like that, or maybe you can get iTunes, I don't know. Because you know, a lot of these sites are blocked by the government, you know, and that's a very particular kind of censorship, isn't it? It's really naked and in your face. You know what's happening there when a government does that. And the governments in the West tend not to do that. There was talk recently of blocking Facebook and Twitter here in the UK because of the recent uprisings, or we're supposed to call them riots. I suppose they are riots, really. But the recent trouble in city centres, because supposedly people were organising via Twitter and Facebook, and so the response is, close down those sites. They're allowing people to gather in a public place. But it didn't happen, of course. And if it had have happened, it would have been so naked. You know what I mean? It would have been so that civil rights activists would have had a very clear target to point to and say, look, our rights are being infringed. The right to peaceful assembly, Peterloo riots all over again. Whereas in China that's happening. Of course there are lots of civil rights activists and advocates for transparency of government that are quite rightly arguing that. But it's because it's so transparent, it's because it is so visible, that kind of censorship. But there is something going on. I wouldn't wish to exactly make parallels, but there is censorship in the West, but it's a different kind of censorship, isn't it? And that's the kind of self-censorship that organisations like Google persist in. Actually, Google has self-censored in China as well, hasn't it? I mean, Google did pull a lot of its stuff from China, or not make it available to Chinese users. Self-censoring. Yeah, that's interesting. I have to think about that one. But the way it operates certainly in this country, in the UK, but I'm guessing in the States and Europe as well, is that there's no government stepping in, at least not directly, to censor what's passing through Google servers or what videos YouTube is putting online. Although there has been a little bit of glitches to do with that. Around about the royal wedding, there was some stuff around that. But Google itself has an agenda which is making it censorious, but in a very particular way, actually, and in a way which is very copacetic with a certain kind of movement of capital and a certain kind of way that global corporations work with markets. Because Google is huge, isn't it? You know, far more than 50% of traffic passes through Google servers, internet traffic. YouTube is the third most visited site on the net. We're talking about a massive organisation here. But for such a massive organisation, its policing practices, I'm talking specifically about YouTube now, are quite specific, but they're also incredibly amateurish. So I'm just going to put my hand over the camera because it started to rain. I hope my fingers aren't in shot. Because the process, as we know, is that if there's a video on YouTube itself, Google doesn't initially screen any of its videos. Everything goes live as soon as it's uploaded. And a lot of that is pornography or is extreme violence, a lot of that kind of stuff. People are putting up that stuff up all the time. And they rely on Google and YouTube, rely on users notifying them of infringements, of the existence of, let's say, pornographic material. By the flagging system, little button on every page, you press the flag button, it gets put on a list and is subsequently reviewed by a human operative, compared to the terms of service and the community guidelines, and if it's in contravention, because let's say it's pornographic, then it's taken down. That's how it's supposed to work. But it's incredibly inefficient, and it's inefficient in a really specific way, or in two specific ways actually. Firstly, it's inefficient because obviously most things are not referred. You know, if you do a simple search for any pornographic term, what you will see is hundreds, if not thousands, of videos that clearly are in contravention of the guidelines as they are published. Whether you agree with those guidelines is kind of secondary to this conversation. But clearly most people are not flagging most videos, so a lot of stuff is staying up because it's never referred to the human moderators. It's never looked at, it's never reviewed, and so it's never flagged and taken down. So that's the first huge problem, that most of the material that is in contravention of the guidelines is not notified. YouTube aren't notified about that, so it isn't removed. And secondly, the material that is removed, it is notified, the material that is flagged, is treated in such an arbitrary way that it's clear that the guidelines are not being consistently applied. For myself, for example, I've lost a couple of channels and I've got a few videos taken down. One of those videos most recently was taken down, which involved me wearing a business suit, eating a banana. Now I was deep throating the banana, but it wasn't in any particular sexual way. I just taught myself how to deep throat, put the banana into the back of my throat, pull it back out again. It wasn't sexual. I think you'd have to be a very interesting person to find it sexually arousing. But it was flagged and taken down. And whilst many other videos that are far more extreme are still up, and I know they've been looked at because they've been awarded 18 plus, they've been awarded that kind of category, which means they don't show up on searches. So what I'm seeing is very, very different sets of standards being applied to the material that's being uploaded and the material that's being actually reviewed. Now, what I mean by that being in Google's interest is that if Google and YouTube were actually as efficient at policing their site as the Chinese government, let's say, or as the law would probably require them to be, if I'm honest, then they would be seen as an incredibly censorious organisation. If every video that was as arousing as myself deep throating a banana, if every video was of that kind was taken down, probably 2/3 of content will be taken down. I'll just invite anyone to do a search of the words deep throat or a banana or any word that's got any kind of sexual reference to see how much that consists of. And I'll also provide a link to my banana video, which I put up elsewhere, and you can compare that. You know, imagine if the same kinds of standards were applied to all those other videos, what we'd be looking at is a massively censorious organisation, and there would probably as public an outcry about how censorious Google was as there is about the Chinese government. Remember, we're talking about the third most visited site on the internet. If the third most visited site on the internet is applying standards like you're not allowed to eat a banana because people might take it the wrong way, and I should add, just compare that to a Cadbury's Flake advert from the 1960s, then clearly the problem would be very visible. It would no longer be it would no longer be hidden behind a veil of license, and Google would be seen as equally censorious to the Chinese government. It's the inefficiencies which allow it to keep functioning, and those inefficiencies serve its needs. Google and YouTube particularly. YouTube was built on the back of contravention of copyright. It was built on the back of allowing people to upload content with no accountability and with an ease of sharing. It was initially a scam. Probably people probably know the background of YouTube. It was initially a scam designed to make a very quick turnaround of cash for a group of people, based on the idea of, as I say, uploading dodgy content. And in a sense, it's still doing that. It's still playing its own efficiencies as part of its corporate strategy for dominating a marketplace. if it either came clean about the fact that it's allowing a lot of dodgy content on there, which are in contravention of its guidelines, or if it came clean about the fact that it's actually applying its standards very strictly, but just partially, then it would be seen for the kind of organisation it is. It's only for the fact it's hidden, and the fact that it crowdsources its censorship. So the people who get blamed for this are the flaggers, the people who press the button because they're momentarily offended. It gives this patina of end-user control. So it's the end-user's responsibility for censoring content. But it isn't. It isn't the end-users at all. The end-user provides the apparent validation for practices which are both highly censorious, highly varied, extremely partial, and ultimately simply serving the interests of capital. It's censorship, capital style. This is how we do it in the West, because we're sneaky. Anyway, that's what a walk and talk video looks like. I've been doing a lot of standing rather than walking and talking. I usually end by showing the scene. This is my dog Phoebe. I'm walking on the banks of the canal. There's some canal boats. This is the Leeds-Liverpool... No, it's not the Leeds-Liverpool canal. It's the Trent-Mersey canal. Sorry, I used to live near the Leeds-Liverpool canal. Now I live near the Trent-Mersey, which used to take pottery from the potteries in Stoke-on-Trent to the Mersey in Liverpool, where they're putting the boats to go around the world and bring the raw materials in. Now, of course, it's just pleasure craft. And I'm also by the bypass there, look. Strange intersection of old and new there. Traffic on the bypass, slow moving canal boats, and speed of light communication via cameras and interwebs.